Randy, you have invited us into your home on literally the busiest week of the year for your family. So an extra special thank you to you.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Yeah, this is so fun to actually get to be in your home. I see Patrick's picture and, of course, Mia's and Jackson's as well. I see jerseys on the wall from college and high school. We have to mention, we have a seamstress in here getting you ready for the Super Bowl.
We do, and I am like still in awe because I'm not used to someone getting me ready except for myself.
Yeah.
And so I'm super excited.
Let's talk about the glam part of what you're about to do. So you've got a dress for a red carpet for the, is it the honors game?
The NFL honors.
Okay.
Yes. Actually, it's a suit. It's a fun suit. And so I'm super excited to go. I think this is my third or fourth time to go. And it was a dream when Patrick was growing up. And I would say, our family, me and the boys, before Mia got here, would watch like award shows.
Yeah.
And we kind of had hand signals. We'd pick who was going to win. And so I would always joke, like, when y'all get to go, like, I'm going to go with you. Like, I'm going to be your +1. And I encouraged it. I was like, one day we're going to be there. And it was just something that I would say, and I really dreamed it and spoke it into existence, obviously. And I got to go, and it was really a dream come true, just to be there, and not even my son being nominated at the time, but just being there, and being from a small town and being able to see that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Beautiful.
So before this whole world that you now live in, where the whole family eats, sleeps, lives, and breathes football, the whole thing, I know you were married formerly to someone who was in the MLB, so you'd experienced a little bit of pro life, but were you a football fan in general?
Not really.
Okay.
I always say, Patrick, to him, that football was not in our 4-year plan. And I think it was my 4-year plan, but when he got into like middle school and then in high school, I'm like, okay, your 4-year plan is we're going to go to college somewhere close to the beach.
Oh.
And he would, even if you asked him, he would say somewhere close to the beach. And we ended up in Lubbock, Texas. There was no beach, no anything. And then, but he was going for baseball and football. And I said, we got another 4-year plan of college and we're going to go somewhere close to the beach. And now we're in Kansas City, and I'm like, wait, hold on. So just send me to the beach.
Yeah,
just send me to the beach. That's just the goal now. But that was kind of our plan. But football wasn't ever in it. He started football probably 4th or 5th grade, little peewee football,
little rec league,
and I say that's the one thing the only thing he quit was football. He started it, and it was a lot. It was 3 days a week. I had just went through a divorce, and I didn't have time for it because between working, and then having 2 boys and trying to get one to football 3 days a week, it was too much.
Yeah.
And so he didn't like it. They wouldn't give him the position he wanted. And I was like, you're going to have to quit. And I think he did something, and I was like, you're going to quit? He's like, fine. And I was like, wait a minute. Like, he didn't quit anything ever. And I would never allow him to quit. But he didn't like it. And so we just kind of hung it up and kept with the other sports. And then...
So it was baseball and what? Was it basketball?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Baseball. Mainly baseball. But basketball, he excelled in it and did wonderful in it.
Yeah.
So basketball's my favorite.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
It's my favorite to watch.
Yeah.
I just think it's so fast paced and the games aren't as long. And I love some pro basketball. So tell me about Patrick as a young child. Okay. So at what point did you see what I would call grit, determination, perseverance in him, maybe that seemed unusual for a child of his age?
Well, being that, I'm the youngest in a really large family.
Yeah, she just told me she has 53 first cousins.
That's
crazy.
Yes. And so my mom was the youngest of 11, and then I'm the youngest of 4. But, our big family. So I grew up with Patrick. I started early, and I kind of grew up, learning everything as he did as a mom. Like I didn't have little sisters to take care of, or everyone was older than me, and so I learned with him, and his dad playing professional baseball. Everything to him was a ball. To Patrick was a ball, and and so that was the only kid I had been around. And so like, it was normal. And, looking back now, I remember, his dad playing on these teams and some of the really big name players. I was like, they would say, how do you get your son to do this? And I'm like, do what? And they're like, go to the field. I mean, like when he was 5 and 6 years old, he was catching, outfield, like catching from Major League Baseball players,
like
batting
fly
practice.
balls in the outfield.
Yeah,
Wow.
but I was like, I can't make him stop. Like, I cannot make him stop for anything. And whether it was Easter and he's like throwing me the Easter egg and he's like, catch. And I'm like, no, you put them in your basket and you keep going. Like,
everything was a ball.
So when like these really big players would say, I can't get my son to do any of this. And I said, okay, maybe he is really good. I look back now, and I've even talked to Patrick when his sister was like 6 and 7 years old. And I'm like, can you believe I let you catch MLB? Like when you were like, he would look at her and compare it. And he was like, Mom. And I'm like, but you did it. And you were out there and that was just what you did. And you focused 24/7 on throwing the ball, whether it was against my TV screen at the time or, I mean, literally, or just up in the air, hitting the ceiling. Like it was always catch.
Yeah.
For everything.
I don't know if this was a quote from you or what, but I loved it. It talked about that even in Little League Baseball, Patrick was on the sideline giving these motivational speeches at the end of the game, which we always see him, like pumping everybody up on the sideline.
He's always been one, and he's a team player. I mean, it's not ever been just him. I used to get upset because I worked nights and weekends, and he would go with other families to his tournaments and stuff and come home, and I'm like, did y'all win? And I'm like, where's the trophy or the medal? I'm trying to like interact after I'm home and he's home, and half the time he would leave them, not even bring it home, or he would throw them in his bat bag and it would be broken. And so I would say, I would really kind of hurt my feelings, but I'm like, he's a kid. Mm-hmm. Well, he did it in the NFL. And like one day I happened to be home when he came in, and I was like, what is that? Or I was at his house.
Yeah.
I was like, what is that? And he said, oh, it's just the game ball. And I'm thinking, oh, he brought home the game ball. Cool.
Yeah.
Then I look at it and I'm like, he had won the game ball. Like it's something they actually do. But
like
I mean, this was like 2 years into football, and I didn't know that he had like so many of them that I just never saw.
Yeah.
So he's never been, it's always been the team, and he's always like from the person that wasn't really playing, he's always motivating them or helping them or telling them to catch because Mom wasn't there to catch. But he's always been motivation for his team and encouraging.
Do you think that part of his personality translates to even now, for example, being named MVP of the Super Bowl and those kind of things? Like it's great.
Oh, it is.
The team won.
It is. And so whenever he does stuff, I have to remind myself, like, he never looks at it as an individual thing and that he went and did it and that he, ran the ball when I told him not to, or, whatever. Like, he is like there to win. It's, I've heard all different things, but I'm like, he is there to find the open person to throw it to. It doesn't matter if it's, a lineman. Like he wants to like get it in the end zone. So
how frustrating was it for you? Because, everybody talks about how he was so under recruited in high school, that people were overlooking him that shouldn't have been. And boy, I bet they regret it now. Yeah. Right. But how difficult was that for you as a mom, seeing what you saw and knowing how good he was and what his potential was? But there weren't a lot of teams coming after him like people might have expected.
Oh, absolutely. I know for me, because it was not football, like his junior year, before he started football, his junior year, he was ready to quit. He came to me wanting to quit. And he said, I'm not into it. He wasn't getting the quarterback position that he had wanted. And
because at the time he's still playing 3 sports, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so even junior year of high school, he was going to give up football?
He came to me because he started in middle school, always had to split it, the time at quarterback because he saw no other position on the field. That was it. And I wanted him to be a receiver because you actually run it into the end zone. Was the reason I wanted it. Yeah. And so he came to me and said he wanted to quit. I mean, right here in this living room.
Wow.
And I said, I don't see you being bored, like sitting in the student section. Like, And he's like, if I quit, like 5 of my teammates are going to quit and we'll just do basketball. And, sometimes I'm like, maybe I should have let him do basketball. Like, because there's been so much change and so much, yeah, it's been wonderful. It's a blessing beyond anything I could have ever imagined. Mm-hmm. But still, it's like a whole new life. I'm learning day by day and my other kids are learning. And even he is learning. I mean, it's like a whole new life on the level that it is. And, it's tough, it's not, we can't just say, hey, let's meet up at Olive Garden and let's go eat. Mm-hmm. We don't get to do that at all. And so, the normalcy of what we were, 7 years ago isn't the same. And so, but I mean, going and him getting recruited and, I wanted him, of course, to go to a big school because I knew he was capable of doing that. And and he got, letters. And we visited schools and then Texas Tech. And then I'm like, being from Texas, East Texas Tech was so far out there. I just never thought of it.
Yeah, that was not on your short
list. That
was
never. And I mean, literally, he goes down there, visits, and he comes back and he goes, that's it. And I'm like, no. And he was like, I'm not making a decision until you're there. And so I took off and went down there with him. And I knew his heart and soul was there. And I literally told the coaches when they were trying to, entertain us, the parents.
Yeah.
I said, they're like, what do you think? And I said, I don't think this school's good enough. I was like, my son is good. Like, he is so good. And I just, no offense. And they're like, well, who do you think's better in Texas? And so I named teams, a lot of teams. And they were like, ouch. And I said, well, I just know if he's going to do football, which I just don't see it, he needs to go to the best. And God puts you in places that you are unexpected. And we laugh about it with the coaches now because they're like, your mom was like, no, mm-mm. And I was like, but I just knew that whatever sport he decided to stick with, he was going to be like awesome. He's going to like excel. Mm-hmm. And football was one that when football season was over, he never, we really didn't have footballs here. I mean, we have every ball on the planet and we have footballs now, but we didn't have footballs that, he practiced with at home or anything. And so it was like just not even on the radar.
Yeah, it almost sounds like it was secondary to
I don't even know if it was third, it was like baseball season would be over. And then he was like, oh, I got to start 2-a-days in high school. So we didn't own a football. Like, you go, the football's there.
So when you found yourself at the NFL draft, I mean, were you just like, how did we get here? I mean, because it wasn't, because I've talked to moms on the other side of it, like, oh, football was our life. That's all we did. And then they end up there. But that wasn't the case in your family.
It wasn't. And it was, I mean, even to this day, it's like, it's all still so surreal. And I know it's our life. And I know it's, like I said, I'm learning daily. But at the draft, we didn't know what to expect. We knew agents wanted to be his agent, but I'm like, okay. I mean, we saw him going further down in the draft than where he went. And we did it here in Tyler. He didn't want to go.
So he wasn't even in New York for the draft.
It was in Philadelphia.
Oh, okay.
But we did go up there, and it was probably my last one-on-one trip with him that I'll probably forever take. And I was begging him to stay. I was like, one day you can show your son that you were at the draft. And he was like, no, I want to be at home. We weren't here.
Goes with that low key.
He wanted, and I was like, and I mean, I think his thing was like, if I don't go in the first round, how embarrassing is that going to be if you're still there? And he really wasn't expecting to. And so we did and it was just him and I that went. So that's something I'll always have because it was him and I. And he was like, sorry, we're in the same room. And I'm like, I'm loving this as a mom. I'm like, no, you're in that bed. We could, he's my baby.
Yeah. And, they only have a king. We can snuggle.
Yeah. And then he would say, he was having to sign all this stuff because it was part, and he was like up all night signing his name, and it was overwhelming, and it was exciting, and it was fun. But it was kind of like learning each step of the way. And even to this day, it's like we're learning each step of the way. It's, I'm sure there's a book out there I can read or something, but I'm like,
you might be writing it, girl.
Yeah. But I'm like, it's crazy how, it's all played out, and it's a blessing. It's, it's been an amazing blessing.
In this 7 years of being in the NFL, of what's changed, what's the hardest part from being a mom and seeing, what the public sees and what they've fallen in love with, and we love to cheer them on, the kind of the glam of that life, but yet there's got to be some parts of it, that kind of make your mama heart ache a little bit.
There's a lot. A lot of it has to do with just relearning a new life. For all these years of being a single mom, and it's just being me and my kids, whether celebrating Christmas, opening Santa gifts together, to now we have a football game that day, or when we do open gifts, there might be other people there, whether filming or doing something. So it's not like, I want to be selfish and just have them to myself, have my grandkids to myself, have, hang out with Brittany and Patrick, or Jackson and Mia, or grandparents, or whatever. I want it to be us without like the other people, or just have a normal, like what I consider normal, like time. And it's super hard, and it's been the hardest 7 years of my life. And I'm super blessed, and I'm super happy, and I keep winning. We're fixing to win the Super Bowl. I already know it. I sound like I always say, speak it into existence. But it's just everything that comes with it. It is a lot. And, we're all learning.
Yeah, so. And that includes the siblings too.
Yeah.
There's kind of almost consequences, I guess, is it fair to say, that come with being in the spotlight?
Yeah. It does. To the fact that, whether people weren't my friends before, or not like close to me or invited me, now I get invited, and I'm like, and it wasn't like we had any beef with each other. It was just, I wasn't invited, and now I'm invited, and I'm very happy, and it's great. But sometimes it's like, you didn't want me here before, and
almost an authenticity that's missing sometimes, and you probably have to kind of question that more than maybe you did in your prior life.
I let people in, and then I'm like, okay, basically you just want to get to the top, which we know what the top is, and I'm like. And I've been let down with that. And just, I love when people say, oh you haven't changed a bit. I'm like, dude, what did y'all expect? Like, I'm still the same person.
Yeah, and you live in the same house where Patrick grew up.
Yes.
You're in the same very small town.
Yes.
Right outside of Tyler, Texas. Like, a lot about your daily life. You still work.
Yes,
right?
still work.
Yes, you still work. Like, those might be things that people might be surprised to hear.
They are, and then it's sometimes I'm like, okay, I still work, like this is my family, like, but it's it's just the new way of life that's like, I'm warming up to it, and maybe I've already should be warm, but when my kids, like, it's kind of like being like, your kids leave, and thankfully I have Mia still at home.
Oh yeah,
but they don't need me anymore. Between Patrick and Jackson, like, money-wise, they don't need me. At one point, they still needed me because they wanted me to buy a nice dinner for them,
Oh, yeah.
Or they wanted me to, buy them some new shoes, or,
I think it's one of the hardest transitions as a mom, is when you get to that point where the joke in our family is, my boys will bring a load of laundry by, and I get excited about it because they live crazy, hectic schedules or whatever. They need me to do it, and some of my friends think I'm crazy for that, but it's not about the laundry. It's about the fact that, your grown adult child needs mom still to help out in some way.
With Patrick, because, it all happened so fast, and, from him going from a college student to going to the Chiefs in the first round, and everything that's happened after that, it's been so fast and amazing.
You didn't get much of a transition.
We didn't
Really?
get it. And like talking to his agent, Lee, he would say, I told you this was going to happen, but never did I think it was going to happen like overnight.
Wow.
And so we didn't get that. I mean, it was kind of like boom, 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 which, I mean, why not? You know,
Do
but
you
at
think
the
you
same
were
time,
prepared?
no,
No.
I don't. I know I wasn't. I mean, I knew it was going to happen. I knew he had the ability, but just sometimes I'm like, okay, we're 7 years in. Like, is this really, for real? And, Patrick will be like, I'm one of the ones that have been on the team the longest, or like I'm like, geez, like you're making me sound old.
How did that happen?
Yeah. And so I think it's, and I've seen other things on TV and stuff, like when you're like an empty nester and your kids move away. And like Patrick, for a long time, because I work at a golf course, and he would need me. You said laundry. He would need me to make golf tee times for him. And I mean, he had won MVP of the Super Bowl, and he was like, "Hey, Mom, can you see if that club can get me on?" And I'm thinking, okay, yes, they can get you on, and they're going to kick someone off to get you on. I mean, I've worked in the golf industry for so long, like, absolutely.
You're like, that's going to happen, no problem. Yeah.
But I'm like, absolutely I can.
Let me
He's
do that.
like,
Yeah.
well, I mean, I called, which he didn't say who he was or had, and they said they were full and I really want to play there, and I was like, oh, I got you. And then he's like, and he was always like, you got me on? Well, then now there's a guy named Brad, you know it, and that does it for him now. And I'm like, but he needed me for that.
Yeah, he needed you to do it. Yeah.
And I'm like, I got to call and be like, hey, this is Patrick's mom. And it just was the one thing I still had on the table that he needed me for.
How old was he when you became a single mom?
He was like 9.
Okay.
And so he was always the man of the house. And I would say, look, you got to do this with your brother, like your brother. Or when his little sister was born, he was the one that
he stepped up.
And even to this day, I mean, he still feels like he is their father, or whatever. And I'm like, and he'd come home from college and be like, Jackson, you're too right. I'm like, they do it every day, whatever. And it's fun because it has moments when I'll go to his house and they're wrestling, him and Jackson, and then Mia's on top of him trying to punch him. And I'm like, I have pictures in my camera. My favorite ones is me taking pictures of them wrestling around. And I'm like, don't get hurt. Don't hurt Mia, whatever. But they still like do that. And so I'm like, I love that. I love their bond and their friendship. And hearing them tell each other they love each other. And I'm like, I love that.
Yeah.
So
I want to talk a little bit about your path as a single mom, because I think there's so many listeners that can associate with that and that just would really respect you for some of the choices that you made. I mean, you were working 3 jobs.
I worked 2 jobs.
And again, people, I think, are going to think, oh, well, she was married to an MLB baseball player. They probably lived this. She's always lived this privileged life. The kids grew up in the major, but it really wasn't like that.
It wasn't. I joke with Patrick sometimes, like, do you really remember that? Like, do you really remember? Like, because, I mean, he was about 7, I guess, when we really started not going and being at home. And I'm like, I look and I'm like, what do I remember when I was 7? And things like that. But he does remember some of it. But being a single mom, he was a very responsible kid. Very
he had to be, right?
Grown up for his age. Maybe not cleaning up for his age, but very mature, very independent. And so he, went through all of that with me, whether it was moving him from a private school that I no longer could afford to moving him to a public school. And just the different things I had to do. And sometimes I tell myself, because I did work, I'd work all day and come home for about an hour and get the boys situated. And then I'd go back until midnight or 1 or 2 or 3.
Wow.
Like I would go back to work because I wanted them to have everything that they weren't going to have anymore. Like they were accustomed to a life and then they weren't. And then, of course, I wanted them to have what I didn't have. What does every mom want? Like, you want your kids to have more. And, you know, the one thing I do say that I wished I wouldn't have done is worked as much as I did.
Well, and you missed a lot. You said, yeah, you weren't necessarily the mom that got to be in the bleachers for every game or you know the stadium or whatever it was.
I wasn't able to be at any weekend stuff because my schedule was the weekend. If I had it to go back again, then I would have
maybe lived with less.
I would have lived with less.
Yeah.
But I made sure, like, I had to make sure, like, all of Patrick's tournaments, I could pay for him to get in them. A lot of times he wouldn't have the equipment that the other kids had. But I would say, Luke over there has that bat. Just use his bat. Y'all are not going to use them at the same time. And so I really think that's a smart decision.
Yeah, that actually makes
sense.
Yes,
I mean, we weren't at home hitting the baseball or anything, you know. So I'm like, you're at practice doing that. So, but then again, like, a lot of Patrick's friends had like really cool, nice first cars. And to this day, my biggest thing I can say is he did not. And I'm so glad.
Okay.
Because he's got really nice cars now. And so I'm like, at least he had that Honda back in the day.
Well, what was his first car?
He had a Honda Accord.
Did you help him get it?
I bought it.
You bought it. Okay.
I bought it.
Okay. It probably wasn't brand new, right?
Oh no. Like, it didn't last a year. But I love that he had that car, and even Brittany's like, that Honda, and I was like, oh yeah, but I'm so glad that he had that experience because he has it, you know, that was something that kind of kept him a little grounded, I think. So.
Was that one of the first big things he splurged on when he could? Was it a nice car?
No, he did not buy a car for the first few years.
Really?
Because he's like his mom. He saw me struggle and save, and he said, I mean, why would I buy a car if they're going to give me one to drive?
I forget about that part.
He's like, why would I go buy one? Yeah. And so his first big splurge was after they won, like a couple of years in when they won the Super Bowl. He bought a car. After the Super Bowl, he bought like a car.
Okay. Yeah. What was it? Do you remember?
A Rolls Royce.
Oh, he did buy a car.
So let's just go. But I mean, like, he could have afforded it, you know, when he first signed, but he waited like a couple of years.
He waited and really splurged. It's so refreshing. And for people who are watching, some people are listening or watching, but like to be in your home, that is so homey.
Yes.
And, you know, it's nothing that is, you know, glamorous of what people associate now.
Oh, yeah.
But I have a feeling that he really appreciates everything he has.
Well, up until this last year, I mean, Patrick's home, like, sometimes I've been kind of like, I know people are expecting me to have this like huge, you know, but I'm like, you know, this is my neighbors are like, they're like family to me. I've lived here for so long. I have the same neighbors and I love them. They watch my house. They bring my mail in. They, you know, and I'm not saying another neighborhood wouldn't.
Yeah.
But I love them so much.
Yeah.
And even for Patrick, like, I mean, he lived in an apartment in Kansas City. Then he had a condo. Then he had a house, and like his house was, I mean, now he built a house, and it's, I mean, but when you can't really leave to go anywhere without people being around, or you having to rent out the whole place just so you can play with your daughter somewhere, I get it. Like, if that's what he wants to splurge, like, I get it, because that's where he can just be himself and like have people over. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. It's an interesting side of looking at, you know, because somewhat, I mean, you guys can't go to Olive Garden. I thought that was a great example. What about you in this small town? Is it hard for you to get through the grocery store and people not want to talk about the game on Sunday?
Oh, yes. And
is that okay?
I am an extreme Postmates, DoorDash, Uber Eats, and Walmart delivery. Just because it gets to be overwhelming. Whether it's, you know, getting calls at work or getting emails at work or calls at home. I used to love to sit in my front yard and sit outside. It was like, I called it my she shed and my garage. And I can't do it anymore without strangers stopping. And it's kind of scary sometimes. So I get where he's coming from. Like, you just want to be normal and, you know, sit outside and talk to my neighbors, not like a strange person pulling up and wanting to say hello.
Are there people who will just drive by your home because it's Patrick Mahomes' childhood home?
There is.
From the couch to your tailgate party, Stella Rosa Wines is perfect for every occasion and best enjoyed with friends. Speaking of occasion, make sure to stock up before your party. Try the Stella Rosa Black, Red, and Moscato d'Asti. It goes great served chilled or with ice, and of course, all your favorite snacks like wings, hot dogs, and chips. There are so many flavors to choose from. Find Stella Rosa at your favorite retailer today. Must be 21 or older. You guys know that I am obsessed with my bare face skincare routine, and the best part is so many of you are loving these products too. I love hearing from you and sharing my favorites like the toning pads and the liquid gold vitamin C serum that really has changed my complexion. Barefaced is results-driven medical grade skincare, and I love that you can text a skincare specialist for a complimentary consult to get started on the best routine for your skin type. You can also take their AI skin quiz at barefaced.com from the comfort of your phone to quickly find your personalized skincare routine. I've put the text number in the show notes, and Barefaced, as always, is offering Got It From My Mama listeners 15% off your first purchase by using the code MAMA15 at checkout. Just visit barefaced.com to learn more. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. The fresh start of a new year always motivates me to think about ways to improve. From being more organized, eating healthier, or working on tough relationships, I'm such a firm believer that everyone needs someone unbiased to talk to about whatever weighs on you. And for us moms, that tends to be a lot. Like me, you are probably guilty of worrying about everyone else's emotional health and tend to neglect your own. But here's what I've learned as a mom. If we work on being the best version of ourselves, we're in a much better place to care for those around us. That's where BetterHelp comes in. It is therapy that is entirely online. It is convenient, flexible, and can be done at home in your comfy clothes. Just go online, fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. And here's your motivation to get started. Visit BetterHelp.com/MyMama today to get 10% off of your first month. That is BetterHelp, HELP.com/MyMama. So if you guys follow our Instagram or watch these episodes on YouTube, you have met Tucker, our golden retriever who greets the podcast guests whenever they come over. Unfortunately, my little wild man loves to run through the woods on our property, and naturally he gets a little dirty, which means he doesn't smell great. Fortunately, I can sprinkle Coat Defense's daily preventative powder on Tucker. It's like a dry shampoo that almost acts like a repellent for dirt. Since we started using this, Tucker stays so much cleaner. He hardly ever scratches anymore, and we don't have to bathe him as often, which is good news for us and even better news for Tucker. We do love this product, and you can try it on your dog or your cat, even your horse, by visiting coatdefense.com. Be sure to use the code MAMA15 for 15% off.
During the playoff times, fans get really excited, and we've had some mean fans and nice fans, some that have made death threats and different things that have gotten like really extreme and scary.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I mean, when strange men would stop and pull up,
Do they take pictures of your house?
well, you could see them drive slow or take pictures, or they would stop and get out. Like I said, my neighbors are wonderful. They watch out for me. They watch my house constantly. I think they're all retired, so they just like are always at home. So
That's so nice. Yeah, and a little stability,
Yes.
of being here and, still raising Mia, who's
Yes.
only 12, 13?
She's 12,
12, okay.
almost 13.
Yeah.
And so, just them keeping their eye out on me.
Yeah, and
so.
she's gotten some athletic genes, hasn't she?
She does. She does. She's trying out for tennis right now, and tennis was not our family thing.
Yeah.
Of all the sports.
either was football, though, right?
Either was.
You
Hey,
never
you're
know.
right.
There you go, Mama.
Yeah.
I love it.
I didn't think about that, but going to watch a tennis match, and I'm like, I can't yell. Okay, what do I do? Like, do I need to sit here? Like,
You're going to have whole new rules
Yes,
to learn.
and I'm like,
for
wanting
sure.
to go, yes, and I'm like, can't yell out here,
What is all of this like for her? Just trying to be a normal 12-year-old girl who happened to be in the suite with Taylor Swift. I mean,
Yes.
it's got to be
But
somewhat...
the crazy thing is her meeting Taylor Swift is like, she's like, okay, Taylor Swift. Now, when Jason Kelsey the other day walked by, and I was like, there's Jason Kelsey. She's like, oh, yes.
So
And I'm like, I cannot force her to take a picture. Well, she did take a picture with Taylor Swift only because Taylor said, Mia, let's take a picture.
Yeah.
But Mia was like, nah.
Really?
Then I'm like, Jason Kelsey. She's like, yes.
She
and
was
then
all about it.
We go to the Pro Bowl a couple years ago, and she was on the field. she is a sports fanatic and she loves it. And so, but I do catch her here listening to Taylor Swift sometimes now. I'm like, okay, I see you, you know. Like, I look at Patrick now, and one of my proudest things of him, everyone thinks it should be football. It's not. Shocker. The second proudest thing is him being a father and seeing him. For one, he's a helicopter dad, and I'm a helicopter mom, and all my friends are like, let it go. And I'm like, and then I'll hear Brittany say, yeah, Patrick freaks out, thinks he's going to hit his head, or thinks bronze, and I'm like, oh, he's a helicopter dad like me. Or he'll just be like, he's the way he parents is like me.
Yeah, he got it from you. Yeah,
I do love that. So he did get that from his mama.
He got that from
he
his
got
mama.
it from his mama right over here. I love that about him. Being a helicopter parent is number one. Well, actually, no. Like him, his faith is number one. Like when he had went to church camp, he came back and he had gotten saved and baptized, and that's beyond my number one proudest moment of him. That day when they were at church and got the youth took over church, and and so
it ignited that passion.
It was
that's special. How would you say you as a mom instilled faith in your kids?
The way I looked at it as when they grew up, my parents didn't go to church on a regular, but my neighbors did. So I'd go with my neighbors Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday, anytime. Like, I was always with them going. And of course, my mom probably loved it. I would always go. And so when my kids, when I had Patrick, like, we'd go. Like, I'm like, and the way I looked at it is, if I can't teach them, then they can hear some at church that it might be one little thing that the pastor said, or, he read or was taught in Sunday school, that he would stick with them. It was something I thought, like, as a single mom, I would just pray, like, God, if I'm not directing him the right way, like, let him get it at church. And then the same for Jackson. Like, let him get it there.
When it comes to, football's a brutal sport. Are you a worrier? Like, how do you deal with...
Well, thankfully, my hair's colored today because I get gray hair. I'm like, Patrick, you're going to make me gray.
Lots of prayers of protection, though, right?
I do.
Yeah.
I literally pray on my knees, but I'm not just praying for him. I'm praying for every player.
Yeah.
I'm praying for every mom and every dad that's, going through that. Grandparents. Like, I'm praying, like, let's just keep everyone safe because it's scary. God's plan is bigger than our plan, and so I try not to worry, but I do still worry, and
well, remember that one game, significant knee injury, right? Was that?
Yeah,
it was early on, and then I think it was, by all accounts, it looked like an awful injury.
And
but isn't there a story about him calling you?
The crazy story is, I was sitting right here on the couch, right here, and I had a friend here. And we had a family moment before this game. Not right before the game, but just a moment that I was upset. And me and Patrick were, being mom and son. We're still normal.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not watching the game. Because I was really hurt about what was going on. And I was like, I can't even watch. And I knew the game had started just because I know the time,
Yeah.
And I look at my phone and I'm like, I saw it was like blowing up, but I had it on silent. I was like, and then I look and it lights up and it's Patrick. And I'm like, kind of caught off guard.
Because you knew you should be mid-game. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I answered it. I'm like, what's going on? He goes, I'm fine. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, I'm fine. Like, my knee is fine. Like, what? And I was like, I'm not watching the game. And he goes on to tell me that nothing was broke. Literally, I did turn on the game at that point, and they're showing the replay and the replay and the replay, which is torture for a parent. And I, crying, should have watched the game. I'm blaming myself.
Mom guilt,
I'm out there like, I told him not to run the ball. Just different things. I'm like all in my head. And then I'm like, okay, I'm double jointed. he has some of the double jointed, like he's going to be fine because my legs are it was his knee. Like I think his knee something. I'm like, they're going to pop it back. He'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, and he really was like, I mean, he did rehab on it, but I'm very like, and I'm like, he gets that from me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There you go. Another one. Look at you.
He gets it from me.
Look at you.
But, and what's crazy is the 2 games that I refuse to watch, which I don't do that anymore.
You'll never not watch a game again.
The 2 games that I haven't watched, he's gotten hurt on both.
Really? Mm-hmm. Wow. Mm-hmm. You mentioned your mom a minute ago. I know you lost her this year, right?
Yes.
Or this past year. Mm-hmm. Is it hard right now when so much is going on? She did get to experience the Super Bowl, which is wonderful. But is it bittersweet?
It is unimaginably hurt. I hurt daily. Mm-hmm. There were so many days that I'm like, I gotta bring my mom. It's so much work, because it is fast and furious, and I don't want to sound like a bad daughter, but I was like, okay, I gotta do this, and this, and this.
No, I totally get it.
And it was just a lot because she wasn't getting around as good, but she was perfectly still working
and wanted to be at everything.
Or she wanted to be at everything, and I'm like, Mom, I can't take you to everything. I'm trying, I just can't. And so, and she was their number one fan. Mm. All of her grandkids, number one fan.
Yeah.
And the loudest fan. If you met my mom, you would think nothing comes out of her mouth. She looks like a quiet little sweet lady. But she was the loudest lady. Like, Patrick's like, yeah, I heard her on the field. Like she might wait till it got a little quiet, and then she had this piercing loud Patrick, and it was like so loud, and like it's been really hard. I would give Mia's Jackson wouldn't have. I would just be like, Mom, go take your sisters,
That's sweet.
And it's hard.
Yeah, I'm sure. I want to talk a little bit about Jackson. Okay, first of all, we're going to start with the positive. That boy has a 1.1 million or more TikTok followers. Yes. His whole social media presence. Is that basically what he's doing for a living now? Is content creator?
No, it's not actually. He works at a credit union. He
has a 9 to 5?
He has a 9 to 5. February the 1st marked 1 year. Okay. Because I do like to brag. He is my only graduate from college.
Oh, how about that?
He is one up on Patrick. Watch out. But he graduated from college. And I've always said Patrick was my athlete. And Jackson he's going to go to the top of whatever
he decides to do. Yeah.
When
he played basketball.
He played basketball. He could have went to college in basketball, but he wanted to just go to college and get a degree and, start doing his thing.
Yeah,
we put this past year behind us. There was some fake allegations against him that finally came out, which was a lot, besides my mom passing.
Was all that going on at the same time?
With all of this at the same time. And we were blessed that, it all got dropped because of the situation.
But that had to be a tough valley to walk through as a mom, especially if you know or feel that that you love has been falsely accused of something as well. And then how did you keep him encouraged? How did you stay encouraged through that?
Lots of prayer, lots of Bible study with my Bible study group, just prayers from every direction, because you find out who your friends are. You find out really who people are through when you go through those trials. And even for my children, all of them, it brought us all closer together. And that was one thing. We might have moments, we're still a normal family, but it brought us together to support and to love and to stay away from a lot of just media and hate and reading some of the stuff, because whenever, as a mother, as I watch a TV station that loves one child and then absolutely hates the other, it don't only affect me, it affects both of my children, and it affects my daughter. And we've gotten to where we turn off the TV. When people say, oh, I Googled this, and I'm like,
please don't.
Don't, because 90% of it is not true. And sadly, I used to think Google was the dictionary or the encyclopedia, and I'm like, I can't even trust it
You
anymore.
learned the hard way.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've gotten to where I don't watch the news. I don't watch, I don't read comments. And a few years ago, I was, learning this new process, and I reached out to Kris Jenner, who she probably don't even remember, but I reached out to her because I wanted someone that my kids could relate to. That would see her as like a mom or successful children. And, I talked to her. She shared a lot of great knowledge and a great information for me. And the first thing she shared, and the one thing I didn't listen to, forgive me, I shouldn't have done this, but first thing she said is, you need a lot of good attorneys. And I was like, Randi from Troop? I didn't say it to her, but I'm like, from Troop, Texas, like 1,000, like, what do we need attorneys for?
I need multiple attorneys.
You need a lot of good ones. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to skip over that part and listen to the rest, because I was just trying to find my way. And I know she was on a huge, bigger scale than me, but I was like, who would my kids relate to that when I talk to them, they would relate and understand and look up to it, because...
And she would get the fame and the spotlight.
And they would understand, And so when she said that, but I look back now and I'm like, absolutely. Like, wow. Like, that might be, like, if I share with a mom that's coming up through this, that would be what I share. And I have shared that, whether I just say, it sounds crazy, but you need like attorneys that you can have on your side, because it's made me nervous to the point of taking a picture with you or someone. I'm like, and I think I read this about Johnny Depp, like he keeps his hands in his pocket because you don't know like what is going to the media or someone taking the picture gets a weird shot or whatever. Yeah. I mean, it's just made me think of it. And I'm like, me? Like, I mean, I'm not going to, like, sorry if my hand hit, but I think about things like that.
Yeah, so. That you wouldn't have 7 years ago.
Yeah, and it's something that it's a learning curve. And, as a parent, I mean, I would rather what happened with my middle child happen to me, instead of the one that would give you the shoes off his feet and be like, here, like the one that's my rock. Like, Patrick is, he's a father and a husband and a football player, and people look up to him in every aspect. And if you saw into my family, like Jackson's our rock.
Wow.
Even for Patrick, like he's our rock. He's our one that God put him in our lives to keep us together. So
when you first saw his TikTok presence start picking up, how did you handle that?
Did
you roll your eyes at some of the videos?
I didn't know TikTok. Well, I am on it now, but I would not. And I would be like, Patrick, get your brother off this TikTok. What is TikTok? I don't know what it is. Get him off, because I'm like, I'm trying to figure out Instagram, and I still have Facebook and everything else. And I'm like, and so literally, then I'm like, wait a minute. Like, I can get on here and they would pay me, like, to do some, like, I mean, I love to tell my kids I was best dancer in high school. That was what I got. Okay. I didn't get president of my class or favorite or anything, but I was best dancer.
So that answers our question of what Jackson got from his mama.
Yes. And so I was like, wait a minute, put me out there. And so it's been fun. Like, I don't really get it. Yeah. But I'm like, holy moly, let's do it.
But you did hate it in the beginning.
I hated it just because I think I hated the hate that he got.
Oh, okay.
And so I would read the hate or people, and a lot of times I'm not reading it. People send it to me. Like, whether it's one of my good friends, I'm like, I don't want to see this.
Even if you try to avoid it, it's hard because, one of the topics you're passionate about is mental health. And you worried about it for your family, for your kids, what they were being exposed to. Share a little bit more with me about kind of the depths of getting in the weeds with that.
Well, that is something that, I really don't think I really thought about it up until the last 7 years. Yeah. And the last few years, I mean, not only does it affects all of us so tremendously. Me reading the comments, not just to me, to my children, whether it's someone that doesn't like the Chiefs. there's people that have said, like, people, news stations, different things. I don't like them. Guess what? I block and delete, and I don't ever see it. Yeah. So if you don't like one of my children, if you don't like something, block it. Like, I mean, just for...
Have you changed your patterns in how you, and what you see and what you expose yourself to?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I have done that, but I worry about my children not doing that.
Yeah.
You know, I do that, but at the same time, it's like, it's beyond anything that I would have ever thought. The hate, the comments, the looks, I mean, even when I'm with my children out in public, or if I'm with Jackson doing something, like, really, you know, the other day I'm walking into a stadium, and this wasn't about Jackson, it was actually about Patrick. And I know the fans, I'm walking into an opposite stadium with my daughter. No one there knew who I was. I was very, like, low key, just walking in. And I had this man in front of me that was probably in his 70s. Probably the fan of the other team. And I'm like, go, y'all can yell against our team all you want. But then he, like, looks at me and he doesn't know who I am. He's like, look at this. Because he saw I was wearing red and they're not a red team. And he was like, look at this. And it was something very graphic and ugly about Patrick. And I know it was just like them, like, hyping up. But I was like, well, my daughter that's 12 saw it. But I just said, I bet your mom would be really proud of you right now.
Good for you.
And I said, because as a mom, that's not okay. And I didn't tell him who I was.
You didn't even say, I'm the mom of him. Yeah.
I just kept walking through. And then the people that were with me were like, oh my gosh, all of his friends started telling him who you were because they noticed. And I just kept walking. But I'm like, I'm with my 12-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a shame.
That's not okay.
Yeah.
And then also on the good side of it, where I was saying the other day, like, you know, people pick on Travis dating Taylor and, you know, why is she at the game? And I hear all this and I'm like, you know what? How many families, not only like dads, are watching the game with their little girl now because she wants to see Taylor up there.
That is,
and I love seeing at the game where, you know, I'll be there and I'll see little girls with all their little bracelets on and they're just hoping, or they'll be like, if you see her, will you give her this? And I'm like, I don't know if I will, but, you know, I don't want to tell them no.
You got to give us a little bit of scoop about Taylor being in the suite and how it changed the environment and the cameras on you and all of that. Is it just crazy that people are so fascinated with it?
It is. I mean, I am like, okay, I thought, like, Patrick being my child, it was a lot. It was a lot. And now I'm like, whoa. Like, I can only imagine her parents. But I will say she's the most gracious, sweet, like, girl, like, very personable. Like, I was shocked she was so tall. Like, I was like, wow, you're so tall.
You're tall.
And I was like, did I just say that? Like, I probably sounded crazy. And it's made me, like, think about things. But, no, I mean, she's, like, fun, having a good time. And I love to see that. But at the same time, I'm like, hey, we're superstitious in here. I need you to go sit back down. Like, you know, like, we've joked and stuff. And so she takes a picture with everybody. Like, if she's going to the bathroom and she's walking away, like, she's going to stop for all the little girls, all the kids. And I'm like, you go, girl.
Yeah.
Like, and so for her to, I feel like, and she may not feel it, go out of her way, but she makes a point, and I'm like, okay, you're really got a fan now just because you love my daughter who's very shy and very quiet and very, you know, doesn't like attention or anything. She's, like, really made sure that she felt good. She makes me feel good. I'm like, but it doesn't make me think, like, I know the first time we sat with her, I was like, okay, I'm going to sit here, and I know that I think I've been on the TV once at the game because I'm usually on the floor with the grandkids or pacing because I stress. And so I sit down a little bit and I get up. And then I was like, okay, I know people are looking, so I'm just going to try to smile. That is impossible. I'm like, okay, I'm done.
Like, I have to forget
They're just going to see me
it.
scratching my head or whatever because I can't do it. I don't have it in me. And I'm watching the game and I'm like covering my face and all that. I'm like, I don't have that. I'm just like,
cannot
give
do
up.
that. Yeah. You know, we're talking about family and mental health and all of the things, and it's so obvious that those are really important things to you, and you really are kind of taking a step forward and incorporating kind of these three key things of what you and your family stand for. Tell me more about that.
Well, it's something that I've prayed about for a long time. I like to kind of keep out of the spotlight, but at the same time, I know that I can touch people that need it.
Yeah.
And so with faith being my number one, of course, my family and mental health, it's something that I'm going to start speaking on and sharing with, and
awesome.
partnering with some people to expand it, to see what God has planned for me.
Yeah.
And I know the biggest thing is one day I want to give my full testimony, and God put it on my heart years ago, and I just think it's a time for me to like share and for people to have the truth, and if it could help one person or if it could help more than one person, I just really want to be able to do that. And so I'm taking a leap of faith into this, and I'm really put it in God's hands, but at the same time I'm going to give my all to that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I just really believe that when you're given an unexpected platform, which you have been as a mom, that there's a purpose in that.
Absolutely.
And so cheers to you.
Yeah,
I think
thank
that's
you.
awesome.
Thank you.
So got to wrap up with this. Okay, the red underwear that doesn't get washed. Are you horrified as a mama?
That did not come from, he did not get that from his mom. Let me go and put this on record. He did not get it from me at all.
I had to ask. I had to know about it.
He doesn't, okay, I did ask Brittany, because I was like, Brittany, look. When he did Head and Shoulders, and I saw something, he's like, I've used that. I'm like, okay, people in my generation think Head and Shoulders is like dandruff. And so I'm like, Patrick, you cannot say that, because it makes me sound like you grew up with it, and like, we didn't like, and so I've joked with that.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, now you're out there telling people you don't wash your, I'm like, no. Brittany, he did not get that from me. And she's like, it's not that he wears them in the game, it's wears them from point A, like leaves the house, gets to the game.
Okay.
I don't think he actually wears them in the game.
Okay. But you were horrified for just a minute.
I was like, at work, I go in my coworker's office, and I was like, okay, I can't handle this. I can't handle it. And they're like, what did Patrick do? He didn't tell you. And I was like, because like, if something big happens, like, let me know before I start getting calls.
Yeah, don't let me read it online, right?
Yeah. Like, I didn't know you were going to be part owner of the Royals. Like, people start asking me, and I'm like, what? And I don't know, but it's not something like someone thinks to tell their mom. I kind of think you should, but I've been that age before where I was like, I'm not going to tell my mom. Yeah. And so with the underwear, I'm like, definitely gets that from the other side of the family and not mine. Because let me tell you, that's not me. I'm like, I would be like, nope. And I've even said, like, he don't get that from me. He don't get it from his mama.
But hey, if it means a Super Bowl win on Sunday, I say wear the dirty underwear.
Wear the dirty underwear. Like, do as you must. Do as you must, but don't, yeah. So.
This has been so fun. I mean, I could talk to you another hour and just not even learn everything about your fascinating life. So I'm so happy for you and your family. And I know y'all are just such kind, genuine people. So thanks for inviting me into your home. This was special.
Yes. Thank you for being here. Yeah.